All right, you are live.
How you gonna do without Cheech harassing?
Yeah, I think I'll do just fine. Yeah. All right, we're live.
Yep.
All right, thanks for coming, guys. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brig Wilson. I work for Fly Fish Food. I do all the videography for them, do the online stuff. But I was born and raised here in Rexburg, Idaho. So it's good to be back. It's fun to be here. But let's get started tying some flies. Do you have any questions for me before we start?
Why'd you cut your hair?
It's too long for. It was too long for too long.
Too long for
Too long for too long. Yeah. All right. So this first little pattern is a green drake nymph. So a lot of my fly patterns, I developed them for up here. I fish a ton up here in Idaho. So when I design them for these rivers. Like I love fishing these rivers. I mean, Utah's like the Provo and other rivers like that. But if they work here, generally they'll work on the Provo or in Utah. So, but the rivers are much bigger, deeper here. So I like to do a lot of heavier bugs here. So
fish are smarter here.
yeah. I think Utah people would argue against that too. So, but I'm an Idaho guy, so I agree. Okay, so this is a size 12. You can do a size smaller than this. I like big and heavy. So this is a size 12 with a 3.8 millimeter bead. I also tie these on the Jig Force from Fulling Mill, which has a turned eye. When it has a turned eye, you can put a massive bead on these things. So I'll put them with 4.5 sometimes. Like if I need to get them down into a deep hole, if I know the fish are holding there, I'll tie them bigger and way more bulky. But with this one, we're just going to do, this is just a Hannock 400 with the Fulling Mill. And that's the old, I think it's called Old Gold is the color of this bead. So I like that one, or the Rouge Gold from Hannock is another cool color. And then the thread is the 6/0 from Semperfly. So for the tail on this, I'm just doing olive pheasant tail. I just strip off a few fibers. I know they generally have like 3 on that back end, but with nymphs, I like them to have a bulkier tail. So I'll just do a few wraps and then pull that to the length, about the half the body, half the shank length, I'd say, and wrap up from there. Are we looking good, Madison? So did you change anything? Okay. All right, and then from there, I'm going to do some wire. So this will be the ribbing. Big wire. So this is medium scope and olive. So I'll just start that, tie that. I like to tie this one down the side so it'll be behind you. You guys won't be able to see it very well, but because I'm going to tie some other 2 other materials in hanging off the back as well. So, and one of them is going to be right down the middle. So that guy, and then for the split case, I guess is what you call it. I don't know. You guys might know another name for what goes right down the back of the nymphs, but this is going to be, I guess I need to show you guys that too. So this is the UV white flex floss from Fulling Mill. And I was messing around, I was telling these guys earlier, I was messing around with markers. Cheech, if you guys know Cheech loves art. And he loves markers. And he messes around, like if you know his baby fat minnow, he marks up his flies. His FPV minnow, he marks up his flies. He does a ton of things with markers. And so I think that's pretty uncommon. And so that's one thing that I've learned from him is to use markers a lot. So these are from Hobby Lobby. They're the Master's Touch. I bought a bunch as a pack for art. And then my daughter was drawing on my tying desk while I was tying one day. And I messed around with her and I shined the UV light over at her paper and it just lit up. So all the Master's Touch markers, a lot of them are fluorescent markers. So from that, I wanted to get a color on the back of this green drake nymph that was like a tan looking color. Like, I guess I can show you a finished pattern. But that tan looking color down the back of that nymph. And so this one, I don't know what color it is, but it's that like that light yellow color. I take fluorescent white flex floss, I put it in the vise, just in the jaws, stretch it, and I just color that. So I won't do that because I already did it with the nymph, or the nymph's already in there. But so then from there, I take that and I just tie that right down the middle. And then the body on this is going to be, where did it go? The Semperfli Dirty Bug yarn. And then this color is dark olive. And so instead of taking the whole strand, it's 2 strands wrapped or spun together. So I just like to separate those two because I don't want the body being super, super bulky. So I just pull those into individual strands and tie those in. Oh, pull that too. That's the other thing with the Dirty Bug yarn. You can't be too rough with it because it'll pull apart just like that. So I could feel it pulling in my fingers when I was wrapping that in. All right, and then from there, what I like to do with this is just spin it up a little bit. Because we unwrapped it, it's gonna spin apart, and then this stuff's just like dubbing, so it pulls apart really easy. So when you're wrapping it, if you're not careful, just like I did when I was tying it in, it will come undone. So I just spin it up with my fingers, just like I'm dubbing a dubbing noodle. And this one's super thin. This one might pull apart anyway. We'll see. Anyway, so from there, I might use the rotary on this guy. Ooh, we're almost losing it. There we go. I'm going to tie in another piece. That one came undone. Just going to do a little more on that. I didn't like that. There we go. So then right where that wing case is going to start is where I'll end that Dirty Bug yarn. And then from there, this is a super bright orange, it looks like. But when you stretch it over top, I don't know if you guys can see that, it gets the translucency of the flex floss helps that color change to make it a little darker. And then as you add that ribbing to it, it'll look good. So just pull that, make sure it goes right down the middle of the fly. And then from there, I'll palmer this up. No specific number wraps. I know those Canadian guys, it's like 7 wraps on their chronomids or something is the gospel up there. But I am half Canadian, but I'm not worried about the number of wire wraps. I just want it to be segmented. All right, and then from there, I'm going to tie this flex floss back in. You can also wrap the flex floss back to keep that same strand tied in, but I've seen when I do that, it'll get off center. So this keeps it a lot straighter. Good night. Trying to make it so I don't have to cut the end. There we go. Just line that up. Just like that. Now I'm going to take, so for the wing case, this is micro or scud skin micro 3mm from Fulling Mill. Oh my God, I already got a piece cut right here. So just this stuff. And this is brown. So you can do an olive color, it just makes it a little bit lighter. So depending on where you're at, I know some green drake nymphs in some rivers, like up in Montana, can be lighter than they are here. Here, they tend to be pretty dark. So I just like to mimic that. But so I'll tie that in right behind the bead as well. Make sure that that's centered. Stretch that. Just like that. All right, now is the legs. And this is going to be Flex Floss from Fulling Mill as well. So what I do with this is I'll just take a strand. This is the olive Flex Floss. Oh, I just chopped up that package. Yeah, I think it's, oh, it's no, bluing olive is the color of this one. So it's just the darker olive. The regular olive is really light. So with this, I want it darker. So I just knot it just like hopper legs. Do a knot right at the end. Super tiny. And you can really cinch on this Flex Floss and it won't come undone. Like a lot of times with other like round rubber legs, when you're doing hopper legs, you have to put super glue on it to keep that like nice angle to it. This stuff won't come. I haven't had it come undone anyway. So I don't want to say it won't come undone, but I haven't had it come undone. So I'll do one. I'll do another one at the other end. I guess I need to show the people on camera too. Just like that. And then I cut these super short because it's a nymph, not a hopper. You honestly don't have to do this. I just think it looks better. It gives a little more dimension. Just like that. Super tiny. Same. And then here I just cut about the length of the nymph with the tail. It will be a little long, but it's a lot easier to hold and tie in. I'd say it's about 1.5 inches long when you cut it. Okay, and then from there, we're going to take it and we're going to tie one in on one side. I have the knot going down about 3/4 the length of the nymph, and I tie it in at the back of that wing case, right where that wing case comes in, and it'll splay out just like that. About 2 wraps to lock that down, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. Just like that, and then I'll go a wrap behind those legs, in front of the wing case, and then behind the other leg, and that just helps kind of prop them out so they're not hugging the body. Just like that. And then I don't want these legs going right up to the bead, because if they go right up to the bead, that bead will push them backwards. So I just have it go about that. So that leaves room for a dubbing collar at the end of this fly to help kind of splay the legs out. But it doesn't, without pushing that leg backwards. Just like that. And then the thorax on this guy is going to be Tactical Micro Flash Dub from Fulling Mill. And this is Peacock. just do a normal dubbing noodle. You can do the, I don't know what you'd call it. I don't know what the technique's called, but improved dubbing noodle maybe, where you do a dubbing loop, just dubbing loop over and then spin it up to make it really tight, but not super needed. And boom. So then I'm going to move in front of that thorax. I'm going to wrap this guy over. Let's cut those legs actually right now. That'll be a lot easier. I'm going to cut those legs just past the bead for now anyway, just to make it easier. Okay, so just like that. And I'm going to take this, the flex floss, I'm going to pull that guy over and do that exact same thing. Make sure it goes right down the middle. Boom, just like that. And then from there, I'm going to stretch them. Cut. So just like that. So there's that wing case. And then I like to take a little bit of resin just to protect that. This one's going to be the thin. You can use whatever resin you like. This is the only one that my daughter hadn't cured the tip of it with my UV light. So I'm using thin today. But usually I use like the Solares medium. So I'll just do just a ball of that right on the back. Just like that. Where did my UV light go? Maybe. Am I blind? Do you guys see it? Oh yeah, AJ took it. Thank you, Madison. Oh. Just let that cure for a few seconds. Boom. And then from there, just another collar right behind the bead. And then for this whip finish, I like to spin my thread up just to tuck it under so it's not like this huge light green or light olive. So I spin that real tight. And just have that hug up right under the collar. And see how that kind of pushed that leg back? Not a big deal, but if you cinch it too tight, too close to that bead, it'll push that leg like almost completely flat against the body. So then from there, I'll cut the legs a little bit shorter. Just like that. So that's the little tiny turtle. And if you look at that UV light, I don't know if you can see that on the camera, how fluorescent that is. You can't really see. Can you see that?
Yeah, you catch it a little bit.
Yeah. Anyway, it lights up with that little hotspot, I guess you could say, going on the back of that. So I just looked at a picture when I was designing it. I don't know if you can see that. I just wanted it to look just like that. So kind of similar. Anyway, I call this one the tiny turtle green drake. When I first started tying it, that thorax was absolutely massive, so it looked like a turtle. But I feel like I'm a lot better tyer than I was back then, so I can get it a little bit smaller, make it a little bit more realistic. But anyway, so that's that guy. Any questions? Do you guys need me to tie anything else? Do you want to see any technique on that one? I know some people will retie a pattern if you guys want to see anything else, but on that guy, if no questions, we'll go to the jig streamer. Any questions online? Do you answer them online at all?
Yeah, we do, but there's
Nothing?
any questions yet.
All right. So this next pattern is a little jig streamer. Same, I mean, it's pretty bulky. It's not a little jig streamer, but same concept. I want these to get down fast. On the South Fork, one of my favorite places to fish is like up toward high C, but way up the canyon, down low like Wolf Flats. If you just go all the way up, and that's where we spent our summers growing up. Me and my buddies' baseball team, like we would always just be up that canyon, and we'd be fishing. There's like a little creek comes in where we just fish like right by this rock. Well, a couple years ago, I was fishing that same rock, but it was in the wintertime with one of my buddies, and it was so crazy to be able to Euro nymph that and not see the bottom of the river. But we were standing, and the high water mark where we used to fish as kids was like 15 feet above us. Like that's how deep those holes, and never realized that when we were young. So we were just throwing, like back then, throwing Rapalos and like spinners that the current was ripping so fast that those spinners were up in the water column. We were catching fish, but we were not getting even close to the depth that we needed to catch the fish that we're holding in that hole. So needless to say, I tie these flies super big, super heavy. So this one's the Thin Mint jig streamer. This one actually just got picked up by Fulling Mill, so it'll be available next year in their catalog. So it'll be here and other fly shops as well. So this is the jig hook I was talking about earlier with that green drake nymph. This is a size 10. I'll put a bead on it, but I'll just show you. It has that turned eye, if you can see that, rather than a normal jig hook. Has an eye just like that. So it's turned so you can fit a huge bead on it. So this is fluorescent light pink slotted tungsten from Fulling Mill. I hope Cheech comments on this because this is his Vise. He always whines when I touch his Vise. His purple popsicle, if you guys know that, his Renzetti Master. But I stole this for the Denver show. And I haven't given it back. So I hope he's listening. I doubt he is, but okay. And then from there, I guess I needed to put some thread on my bobbin. Let's do this one. This is the new thread from Fulling Mill. This is 140 rusty brown. Any brown, olive, or black thread will work for this one because this fly is brown, olive, and black. It's kind of a play off the Thin Mint. Thin Mint was one of the first streamers that I ever tied, and I loved it. And then when I looked for it to try, fished, Mike Glissmeyer, Idaho Fishing Outfitters, was the guy who kind of got me into fly fishing. And so he handed me that pattern, a bunch of other patterns, but that was like the first one that I fished. And then when I moved to Utah, I started tying, and I searched up Thin Mint, and Curtis Fry at the Fly Fish Food had tied the Thin Mint with this stuff. It's fluorescent melon. And so in my mind, this is how you tied it, and the one in Idaho is wrong. Being a beginner tyer. And so I looked for this pattern forever and could never find it. And so I was like, well, I guess I just have to tie the Thin Mint. And then I found out later that Curtis just was tying a little variant and that this wasn't even the correct Thin Mint. But this color seems like it wouldn't work on trout, but they love it. whether it's that color or not, but they're not afraid of it, I guess I should say. Oh, actually, before we thread wrap, I'm talking too much. So this has a huge bead on it, and then I even wanted to get down even further, so I put some weighted wire, lead free, whatever you want. This is 020 lead wire, so I just wrap that about 3/4. Let's use. Okay, and then from there, so that's super heavy. That's going to get down, and this has a slender profile, so that gets down way fast. So I call this one the minty jig streamer rather than the thin mint jig streamer because I don't want to confuse people, but that's kind of what this is inspired after or from. Anyway, so I'll build up a thread dam so that doesn't move. This thread is awesome, by the way, this flowing metal thread, if you haven't tried it. It's a way good thread. All right, and then I use, when I'm tying these, the tricolored tail, these flip upside down in the water column. So I like to tie these in dark color. It doesn't really matter, but dark color on bottom, and then the mint in the middle, and then whatever lighter color is on top. At the vise, and when it flips like that just because fish, minnows, sculpins, they're darker on top, lighter on bottom. So the black on this, we're going to have 3 colors in this. So you don't want a massive, massive bulky tail. So you don't want to tie in as much as you regularly would. So I'm just going to take it just like this, take about 1.5 inches in my fingers, strip it off the stem, just like that. Some people like to rip the tips off. I know like Lance at the shop doesn't like the wispy feathers. He likes the more webby feathers. I'm opposite. I like the little thin fibers. I feel like they move a little bit more in the water. No right or wrong way. Lance has confidence of that. I'm not arguing with Lance. He's one of the best fly fishermen in the world. So he's probably right. I'm probably wrong, but this is just the way I like to do it. So I tie this similar to how Lance ties his humongous, just a long, super long tail. About like that. We'll still peel some off at the end too to kind of even everything up, but we'll go like that. Same thing, just strip that off the stem. That mint color. We'll put that right there. Set it up. Want that to come about even with that. It doesn't have to be even, but looks a lot nicer to the person looking at the fly, I guess. The fish probably don't care, but a couple wraps like that. And loose wraps on this, because this maybe will spin. So the pinch wrap works just fine, but we're just 2 loose wraps and pinch that with your fingers and then cinch down, and that'll put it so it doesn't spin along the hook shank. Otherwise, that one color will spin over top, and then you won't even see the black. It'll be underneath that melon color. And this is brown. So yeah, this color, sorry, I don't know if I told you guys, this is fluorescent melon. And then from there, take the brown. Just like that. You see, I spun it this way. And there's that technique too with the peeling off those stems. I think it was Davey McPhail. I don't know. Cheech throws around everyone's name, but Just peeling off that just helps. I should have done that with all these, but it helps get rid of all that out of the way. But see how much thinner that is? And all I did was just take my fingernail, just so that tie-in point is way smaller. Way more manageable. 1, 2 loose, and then cinch that down. You can see all 3 colors. And then from here, it's important not to just chop straight up and down like this. Otherwise, you'll have a big bulky section where your chenille, when you're wrapping it, it'll separate that chenille. And so this, you'll just take this clump and you'll go parallel with the hook shank. Take all 3 colors. Go right behind the beads where you'll start that cut. You go just like that. So then it's tapered. And so then you just take your thread and lightly go, because you obviously don't want to spin it as well, because it'll still create that bump. And then you can just lay that flat along that hook shank. And so it's a nice flat taper. Still a little bit bulky at the back, but not near as bulky as it would have been if I would have just lopped it all off straight up and down. And then from here, I'll go all the way back. So they weren't tied in at the exact same point. So I'll go back. And then I learned this from Lance, but with his humongous pattern, if you haven't fished that pattern's phenomenal. Still water. I've used that one in streamers or in rivers, and it does awesome too. But what he does is he ties it down the shank of the hook. It looks goofy. In the water, it looks just fine. But it keeps it from fouling. This marabou, because it's so long, in that water, it'll hook around that. But when you tie it down the bend of the hook like this, it fouls way less. It doesn't seem like it would, but it really does. It works. So just tie that down at the bottom of that. And then you come back here, and the tips aren't even, so I'll just take my thumb and just peel those off. And then this color of chenille, this is streamer straggle is what it's called. So it's Flowing Mill's version of UV Polar Chenille Medium from Hairline. But if you haven't seen the Flowing Mill stuff, Flowing Mill has the metallic stuff. They have UV, and then they have the regular. But they have a ton of different colors, way more than Hairline does. I love Hairline stuff too, but they just have way more color options, especially in the olive colors. So this is kind of mimicking like a little sculpin pattern. So if you've seen sculpin, they can be like a ginger color. They can be light olive, dark olive. You can get them in a brown. So anyway, with this, I'm just going to, this one is brown olive streamer straggle chenille. So wrap that back. And then you can palmer this with palmer this up with the rotary, but it traps fibers, and this takes like 6 seconds more than wrapping it with that. So what I do is, as I wrap, I just preen those fibers back like that, and so none of them are getting trapped down. So every fiber. Otherwise, if you wrap it with the rotary, you're going to trap fibers down. You can go in there with a dubbing brush. You'll rip some fibers out. You won't get them all, but fish probably don't care either way. But it looks nice to me, so this is the way I'm going to do it. Okay, I'm going to put a collar on this, so we're just going to not go all the way up to the bead. We'll just go right there. Couple wraps, couple locking wraps in front. And then we'll go right up there into the slot. Wrap that in. All right. Now for the collar on this guy, it can be pretty much any olive soft hackle. This guy is the original hackle that Lance uses for his poacher pattern. If you've ever seen that pattern's awesome. This is the Brahma hen saddle. Whiting, I believe, stopped making this stuff, but you can still get it. They still have a ton of birds. Like Whiting has so many birds. It's unbelievable how many pelts are at their facility. I have the opportunity to go with Cheech and pick out some hackle with him. We don't do it anymore, but we used to be able to go out to Whiting and pick out all the hackle. And the amount of pelts is absurd that they have there. So if you do ever get your hands on a Brahma, Dr. Whiting made it to be a substitute, like a stronger substitute for partridge. So if you can see, it has the dots on it, it looks a lot like partridge. But he's a mastermind when it comes to getting feathers to look the way he wants them to look. But anyway, this looks really good. Looks like really sculpin-y. So if you have the chance to get a Brahma, and I believe the color's golden olive, but really any soft tackle will work. So I like to, sorry, I should have shown that on camera. I will grab one of these bigger ones. Toward the bottom and back of this. Let's do that one. Pull it out. These webby fibers I don't like. So I just preen all the way up to where those webby fibers end. It just makes it a lot easier to deal with. A lot more manageable. You just pull them right off. We're going to tie this in by the tips. Pull this back. Just like that. And then for easier tie-in and cutting at the end, I'm going to cut the tip off just like that. This is a super thin stem on this feather, so let's see if we can keep it. Yeah, we're going to see if we can keep it from sliding out. So I tie that in concave part of the feather. So I guess the vibrant part of the feather facing you, the concave facing the fly. So that will cause the fibers to all go backwards on that fly. If you tie it the other direction, the fibers will flare and push out toward the bead. Fish probably, like I said, fish probably don't care, but it looks better to me, so I'm going to tie it this way. So from there, we just palmer it up all the way. And so I use the whole feather on this guy because it's not a super long feather. There are some hen saddles that have super long feathers, or super soft tackles, I should say that. So you want to be careful, but that's just about 2.5 wraps, sometimes 3 wraps. And then from there, catch that, cut that. Also, a huge shout out to Rambler. If you guys haven't heard of Rambler scissors yet, they have some of the best fly tying scissors I've ever used. Another opportunity that I have working at a fly shop and having Cheech. I work with Cheech every single day of my life for like the last 8 years, and he has so many tools, so many different scissors, and he's always testing out new things. But these scissors from Rambler are some of the sharpest and best scissors I've ever used. They have a bunch of other ones. These are coming out. I don't know if these are out yet, but their scissors are used to cut Teflon for SpaceX. So they're crazy, crazy strong scissors that they have available. And so they don't dull either. So they have some that are just for synthetics, some for regular stuff. And also Rambler bought Anvil, I believe is how it works. So the Anvil scissors that everyone's used to in the past, they're still developing those too. So anyway, that's the Minty Jig Streamer. Super fun little pattern, super quick, especially when you're not talking through it. You can tie these up in like 5 minutes. So nothing new. I don't want to say I developed this pattern. It's just like any other jig streamer. It's just a color pattern that I like. Little soft tackle up front. But anyway, that's one of my favorite little jig streamer patterns. And then I have any questions, Madison, online? Yeah. Okay. Another color option too. You guys can, I don't know if you want to pass them around. I know that's a normal thing for you guys to do. Let me grab the one I just tied. Which one?
Is that the only advantage to that jig?
Is what?
To the eye, that it holds a bigger bead?
I think so. And yeah, you can just get a bigger bead so it's super heavy and to get it down. So, but I fish this one on lakes too, like still water. Like it is a jig streamer and a lot of people Euro nymph these. So I'll tie them just a little bit lighter and throw them in lakes. So the pattern is super versatile. I mean, it's just like an olive, pretty much like an olive bugger, right? But yeah, that's why I like that hook specifically with that turned eye. Is the advantage is you can just pack a ton of weight on it. Like you can, I think if you tie an 18 in that hook, you can fit a 3.5 millimeter bead on the 18. So, I mean, if you know your own nymphing, like Utah's, yeah, Lance and those guys, Devin Olson, like they love heavy, heavy, heavy nymphs just to get them down to the very bottom because that's where the fish feed. 90% of the feeding is done at the bottom. So the heavier and the faster that you can get your flies down to where the fish are holding is you're going to catch way more fish. So those size 18s in that hook, that's the Jig Force. Sorry, I guess I didn't tell you what model number, but it's just Jig Force 5125 from Fulling Mill. But yeah, those I think go down all the way to 18. So another awesome color for this is black. Good night. Where's the end of this thing? So this is the metallic streamer strago from Fulling Mill that we'll use. I guess I better get a hook in the vise first. And we'll keep a hot head on this. So you can tie this with just a silver bead. My desk is starting to look like Cheech's. Where do you see any? Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think the bead on that, Wes, is a, what is that, 5.5? Yeah, 5.5 millimeter. So that's a huge bead. I think Fulling Mill now makes 6.5 beads. Oh, he left. But anyway. I think Fulling Mill makes 6.5 slotted tungsten beads now too. So they make some huge ones. So that's nice for these big rivers up here, being able to fish huge heavy flies. That's some thick thread. Guess I'll make it work. So because it's all I have at my desk right now, we're going to use 210 in here. Black thread. So with thick thread too, I've seen that you can tie, I mean, 210's pretty dang thick, but if you just use a lot less wraps, you'll be just fine. I learned that from Cheech too. I don't do it very much, but Cheech can tie flies with the least amount of wraps possible.
Would you like a 140?
Maybe chuck it, or don't chuck it. Chuck it, AJ.
There's more camera value there than our lives.
It's just Madison's. It's okay. Anyway, the nicer or the least amount of wraps you can get on your fly, the nicer the flies look typically. So that's a challenge too, is try and tie smaller flies with bigger thread and you'll learn to keep your thread wraps to a minimum. Okay, so we'll put the lead on this one again. So I wrap this. Sorry, I've had buddies ask this question, so I'll just explain it to you guys. When I wrap this stuff, because I wrap, like when I tie my Rip and Rooster, the big articulated streamer that I like to tie, I do a ton of thread or lead wraps. So what I do is I just go over top of it and then I bend it over my finger just like that. So it's like a candy cane or a shepherd's hook. And then from there, you can pretty much just let go and I just pinch it every rotation around just to make sure it's not slipping on my finger. But you can wrap that so fast around to save time. So I just get it just like that and just wrap. All the way until you're the back of the bead. All right, and then from there, same thing as the last one, darker colors on bottom, working up to lighter colors. There it is. And so I built this thread dam. I didn't say this last time, but same concept with the marabou, separating the chenille. This lead can separate the chenille too, because you'll get a space in your lead wiring. So just to negate that, you just build a thread dam that pushes all the lead forward, and then you just wrap over just a little bit. You don't have to do it a ton, and you don't do it super tight, otherwise you'll separate the lead yourself with your thread wraps. So from there, grab your marabou, same thing. This one's going to be all black on the back end with that fluorescent melon in the middle. Oh, I guess I just lied to you because I'm going to have 3 colors. I usually do all black, but today I'm doing 3 different colors. But same concept. You don't want to tie in a huge bulky piece of black, just a little bit, and we'll do that technique where we just thin these feathers, and you'll see how, compared to that last one, how it was a big mess with marabou. We'll just do Davy's trick of stripping off. I think it's Davy's. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Cheech says it's Davy's technique of moving those, tying those in. Tied those in way too long. So if you have a Renzetti, I kind of used a bend in the Renzetti. For these, yeah, I kind of go back to that. I don't really think about it, but if you don't have a Renzetti, I would say that's almost like triple the shank of this hook back there. Okay, and then from there, same thing, I'll strip that off, and then I'll come in here with my thumbnail. And you can see all that's coming off when you do that trick with your thumbnail. You just get all that fluff out of there. It's nice being able to work with Cheech every single day. I mean, there are some perks, you know, but he does that Skill Builder series, and I get to film that. So kind of like a fast track to learning new techniques, but it's nice to be able to, I literally learn new things from those things every single day. And then I also film the same ones with Lance on the water. So I'm definitely fortunate in that manner to be able to have all these wizards, I guess you could say, of the industry that I'm with every single day. But I don't take it for granted. I'm thankful that I'm able to learn these techniques from those dudes. Anyway, so then from there, we're going to get iron, although this is heron gray. Forgot we changed it up. AJ helped me select all these materials right before. So we kind of designed this little colorway, like I think we had 3 minutes left before we went live. So if this looks awful, blame AJ. But I think it'll look sweet. I fished it all black with the melon in the middle, so I think it'll, having 3 colors I've seen a lot more success, especially on lakes with still water. I think the fish just have a better look at the flies with, I feel like it's more of a aggression strike in rivers when these things float by and they're quick and they have a lot of movement. But on still water, especially when you're crawling stuff, I think the fish they inspect it way more. And when you have 2 or 3 colors on the tail, just like more color variation in your fly, they like that better with the slow movement when they're inspecting. I feel like more color variation makes it look way more natural. It seems like there's way more movement. Like if you think about it with a black tail moving, it looks like a leech, and the light hitting it, there's not a ton that the colors, like that black color, can show you. But when there's 3 different colors on the tail, there's a ton of different parts that the light's hitting on that tail that the fish can see, and so it looks way more realistic. It looks like it's moving more. So that's why we like to tie more colors in on the tail. How's that looking? Yeah, there we go. So then again, we'll take this bulk. Instead of lopping it straight off, we're going to come in, make sure that your hook start or your cut starts right behind the bead. Just like that. And as you go forward, to keep it from all spinning around, if you just go super slow and just nice loose wraps on top and then tighten it when your thread hits the bottom of that hook shank, you can just lay that all the way down the hook shank. All right, and then we're going to take that metallic, let me tell you the correct color, but silver black, the metallic streamer strago from Fulling Mill. Shoot, AJ, we didn't get a black collar for this guy. Thanks, dude. See how slow we can go before AJ gets up here.
I have some like gray CDL up
That might work. That might be cool, yeah.
here.
No, that's sweet. Let's do that. Gray will be cool. So I like to use a slot of the beads too to tie off the material. It's way easier. These beads are huge, so you can just kind of pull stuff up into there to help tie that off so you don't have a huge bump. And this is a Coke de Leon hen saddle that Madison got me. These are huge, but we'll try and find a small one. Oh yeah, that'll work. These are sweet feathers, Madison. You just helped me find a new material. I've never used a Coke de Leon hen saddle. Those look almost just like these, just bigger.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
they're super cool.
So same thing, I'm just going to strip those off. Just like that. Come up to the tips. It's a stronger feather too than the little tiny Brahma. Okay, and then I'll come up here and I'll cut all those off. I just do that so then you don't have to cut those off at the end, because then you'll just have some fibers. Trying to get your scissors in there after you've already whip finished is annoying, or after you've already wrapped your hackle in, trying to stay away from all the other hackle fibers. So again, concave part of the fly You can even lay it on top. I just don't because that huge slot's a little more difficult to start material in rather than finish it. So I'm just going to bring it to the side. Concave part toward the fly. That stem is tiny. I kind of broke that, but I have hackle pliers, so I'm going to use those. Anyway, so also I didn't have to do this with the last one, but I'll preen those fibers back like that to just get them all to lay facing back. Yeah, that looks way good. Madison, thanks. I'll trap that down. I'll cut that. Look at that. A color pattern designed by Madison, AJ, and Brigham. Anyway, super versatile little jig streamer pattern. That's the darker version. But you guys can pass that around if you want to. I guess I need to leave it in the vise for people to see if they want, but
Pass around the first fly.
yeah. I can do that. Find which one it was.
It's heavy. It is heavy. Let's go down like that.
Yeah, you don't want to get hit in the back of the head with it. Yeah, super heavy pattern, gets down. I stripped that one a ton too. Like, I'd Euro nymph it a lot. You're like dropping it off the side of a drift boat on the South Fork. It's just super effective too. Whether you're Euro nymphing or just have a sink tip, just letting it get down. But it's crazy how deep that river is. I've caught fish on that one, on the Teton, on the South Fork, Henry's Fork, Provo, Green River, Main Snake, like all over the place. So trying to think. No, I'll do some little stones. What time is it? How much? Okay. All right, so this next pattern, man, I don't know how Cheech does it with his messy desk. Yeah, that's freaking sweet, that material. Okay, this next pattern is a little stonefly. Not little, it's a big stonefly, but same concept. I feel like stoneflies that are designed are generally pretty small. I mean, if you see stoneflies in Utah, they're a little bit smaller. Here, obviously, we have the salmon flies. I tied up a bunch of stoneflies. I thought they were huge, just considering the path rubber legs, Pat Stones that I tied for Utah rivers. I tied them way bigger. Went to Idaho. My wife's a photographer, so she brought her camera along. We were up at the Ashton Dam fishing. We were just waiting, and the salmon fly hatch was going on, but all the nymphs were coming up onto the shore. So I grabbed some and I put them in my box on top of my nymphs, and she took a picture. And the nymph was triple the size of any one that I tied in my box. And so in my mind, I was like, we are fishing such tiny nymphs. They obviously work. Everyone knows that they work. But I was like, I want to tie them way bigger. I feel like the fish will see them, and I did tie them bigger, and they work. So this one is one of my favorite little stonefly patterns.
I always tie twos. 60s on the south.
Yeah. Twos. Yeah, I remember Mike Glissmeyer told us I was going up to Island Park to our cabin for Christmas. And Mike Glissmeyer, I just had stopped into the shop and was asking him about fishing Box Canyon. We were waiting it. And he's like, fish a size 2 stonefly. And it was 17 degrees outside. Like, it was freezing cold. And he said, fish a size 2. And I thought he was crazy. I thought he was joking. And he's like, Brig, I'm dead serious. Do it.
Yeah.
And so I did it. And big rainbows all day. I mean, all day. It was 17 degrees. We were probably there for like an hour and a half. But we caught a ton of fish on massive stoneflies in the middle of the winter. But yeah, they were size 2s. So these I'm not going to tie in size 2, but I do. I tie them in size all the way up to size 2s, and they look just like those salmon fly nymphs. This one's going to be size 4, so it'll be just barely smaller than that. But I tie the salmon fly in a size 2 or 4, and then the golden stone I'll tie in like a, because there's some huge golden stones in the South Fork, but I'll tie those generally in a 6 or an 8. But so the hook, so we'll do the salmon fly first, the black one. I had the wrong bead size for this. Oh well, that's fine. This is a 4.5 millimeter bead on this. Looks a little small. It's because it is, but that's okay. Sorry, Madison. I haven't been changing the camera's angles at all. I'm used to changing them from your perspective, but not from mine.
So do you think the bead makes any difference rather than just?
I think it does. I think
Yeah.
From MFC. And this one's just going to be the brown.
Crashed for a minute. Oopsies.
Going back up live. Oh, maybe that's what they're texting me about.
Maybe.
Oh, yeah, it's Chance. My wife, she's the project manager at Fly Fish Food, so she's watching and probably telling us. Yeah, it says, did you break it? That's what she said. So maybe they didn't even see my rookie mistake. Maybe it was just you guys. They don't even know. Okay, sorry. So I cut off half of this. Just one leg off the right side, and then I cut that in half. So that's going to be the tail and the antenna, and I do the same thing for the legs. So it's going to take two sides of this. So we can cut those off right now. So for your material prep, you cut two off, just like a Pat's rubber legs. Bend that one in half. Cut that in half. So that's pretty much all we're going to use for legs. Antenna. So these bend, when they go into the package, they bend like this. Preference, again, fish probably don't give a crap, but me, the rubber legs is going to bend one direction, and if you tie them in the wrong direction, they will either flare way too far apart, or they will come together and look like just one little rubber legs. But the way you do it is you just take it where it's bending up toward your fingers, and then you bend it over top of it. So you're bending it, and then now they're going away from each other. If you can see that. Cheech does it a different way. Cheech ties his rubber leg in and pulls it super tight, wraps down the hook shank, bends it back over, pulls super tight out the front, and wraps it in. That works really well too. For whatever reason, I cannot get that to work. And it annoys the crap out of me. So I'm just going to do it this way because it's the way I've always done it, and it works. So, but that's another way. So if you guys want to see a cool way, Cheech has that on the Skill Builder too for this, because rubber legs can be some of the most unruly things. So I like to just kind of give like a figure eight right there, wrap in front, and then come back. You want to do as the little amount of wraps as possible because this bead needs to come and sit over top of this. If you wrap too much, that bead won't be able to sit up there. And so it'll look super goofy sitting back just like that. So super small around the smallest amount of thread wraps as possible. And from here, we're going to whip finish just right behind that. Boom. And then we're going to do our wire. We'll go about there. And with the bigger bead, like I said, you can double wrap that and make it a bigger, bulkier thorax. This will have a bulkier thorax regardless. Like with the Pat's rubber legs, I would definitely have this wire wrap end where your thorax is going to start because you want your thorax a little bit bulkier. I guess that's what the weighted Pat's rubber legs. But with this, the thorax, you'll see what I mean in just a minute, but it's going to be big regardless, so you don't really have to worry about that. You can take this wire all the way to the end if you wanted to give it that weight. Super light wraps over that wire, the end of that wire, because it was pretty sharp. I don't want to make that other rookie mistake and break my thread. So then from there, I'm just going to wrap all the way back for my legs. Okay, and the same exact thing that I did before, except the opposite direction. So my left hand, I'm going to take my right hand and bend it over my thumb here and pinch. Because it's going the other direction. We're going to take that, two loose wraps to get those to splay at the end. Another figure 8. Just like that. So that's how that's going to look right there. Oh, about nicked my thread. Okay, this next part is going to be the fulling mill scud skin. This is 6mm brown. I'm going to cut that and tie that in, coming right off the back. And so I just pinch that around the hook. It's a little unruly just because it's so thick. So pinch that. And as you wrap, you can pull it, and that'll help control that. So it's wrapping around the hook shank rather than just causing a huge mess. And you want to go right up to where those legs are tied in. And then with this also, I said right up to where you want to leave a little gap, and you'll see why, because this is going to be wrapped around the chenille. And if you have it too far back, like where the legs are like tucked up under it, it'll pinch the legs together. So you wrap, and have a little bit of space between, like, just, I don't know, 1 millimeter, but just enough so that when you make that first initial wrap, it's not going to pinch those legs together. So then from there, this stuff is some of my favorite material. I tie little eggs with this. I tie stoneflies with this. This can be little jig streamer bodies. So this stuff is the chewing gum chenille from Fulling Mill. This one's the brown. This is the black. The black just doesn't have the card on it, or isn't on the card. This is the jumbo size. I believe, no, jumbo is the F&F, but the F&F gum chenille as well, bubble gum chenille, is the same stuff. It has little rubber legs pinched in with the chenille. So super cool, super versatile chenille. So I'm going to tie that in, coming right off the back. In black, sorry, that scud skin is brown too. And that scud skin kind of changes color based on what the underbody color is. And you'll see that with the next pattern after this one compared to this one. So from there, I'm going to wrap this, touching turns all the way up the hook shank to where I want my thorax to start. I'll go right about there. Catch that. And then from here, I'll trim. Well, we want to trim right there. Sorry, we're going to trim just the back of this, where all those are kind of going over that scud skin. We got to trim these rubber legs. And it helps create that taper. You'll see what I'm talking about in just a second, but not all of them, because you'll want those rubber legs because it helps create a super cool buggy looking body. So then I take just a little bit of super glue. You definitely need super glue. Trying this a bunch without super glue is not fun. So this helps. Just start it right there and just run just right on top. That's all you need. Then you'll fold it over, make sure that grabs that super glue, and see how if I wrap that and I pinch that down, it'll catch those rubber legs if you don't have enough space. But because we gave it enough space, we're good. Unless it shifts on me, but I think we're good still. So then from there, we're just going to wrap that up and segment that. And putting half of it, overlapping it by half. Just so those rubber legs don't peek out. Probably wouldn't be the worst thing, but I catch it just like that. So I've tied case caddis with this exact material, 2 materials together, make super buggy looking bodies. You can do a ton with that. Looks just like a little case caddis, stonefly body especially. Anyway, so then from there, I'm going to take this stuff again, tie it in. We'll put that right there for now. We'll try and find the rubber leg that we just cut. Okay, same thing with this though, with the rubber legs coming off the side. It's super easy to just come to your thread, make the bend go toward you, and then just push away from it. Bring your thread up and catch it. And with this chenille, Pat's rubber legs with like the Stonefly chenille, the small stuff, sometimes it won't separate the legs very well, and so because it's so tiny, this stuff is so big and bulky that it definitely separates the rubber legs, and you can manipulate them however you want with the chenille. So you don't really have to worry about the shape and look of these rubber legs when you tie them in like this. You obviously want that X like that, but you don't have to worry about shaping it perfectly because it's going to do just fine. So from there, wrap all the way up to the front. Palmer that, about 2 wraps, 1 wrap in between, and then go in front. And then whip finish. Good night. Boom. So that's what I call a rock crawler stone, because it's crawling on the rocks because it's so freaking heavy. Anyway, that's that guy. Super buggy looking pattern. Gives it a really fuzzy looking thorax. I think it's a anemic stone is what it's called. Has that, you've seen that, like it has, some are tied to CDC, some are tied with, I don't even know what the other material is, but it's just super, super buggy looking thorax. Just kind of mimics that same concept of just a super bulky thorax, but also giving it that case-like body. So that one's a rock crawler stone. That one, I have tutorials for all of these on Fly Fish Foods channel too. So that's a rock crawler stone if you want to look at that one. To see a kind of a more slowed down and be able to rewind it. But so that's a salmon fly version. This next one isn't on the channel, but this is going to be the stonefly version, the golden stone. So we'll tie this in. With a size 6, and then when you get smaller than a 6 into like an 8 and a 10 is kind of when I go down a size in the chewing gum. So there's, I believe it's micro and jumbo, like it's just one or the other. And so, and there's huge difference in the 2 sizes. Actually, there's 3 sizes with fulling mill, 2 sizes with F&F, 3 sizes with fulling mill. So that it's not the micro, it's just the regular is the one I go down to. But it is a huge jump, and so you just kind of have to make do with your stone looking a little bit sparse or super bulky on the size 8s. But this is going to be size 6. But just for your information, if you're going to tie this in a little bit smaller. And so that's how I like the bead, like the proportion of the bead to look on that. That's just 4.5 millimeter bead on that guy. So that's the same size of bead that's on that other one. And we're not going to make the rookie mistake, and we're going to tie in the antennas. I about went for the lead right there. And this, I'm going to go back to the brown thread. This is the Rusty Brown 140. We'll start that. This one, I usually use these brown, but I was looking through them in my drawer the other day. I think this is the amber color. They weren't even in a package, but I believe this is either the amber or the yellow. But we're gonna rock with that to kind of give it some variation in color. Same thing, I cut that in half, and then cut that in that half. And we'll do that one more time for the legs. So the first time I fished this pattern, I was fishing on the lower South Fork. I guess not super low, but lower, like out in Archer. And it was 4th of July weekend. So it was right during the salmon fly hatch on the South Fork. And my buddies were using paths and they're using dry flies. And then I had tied this pattern a bunch for the Henry's Fork, and it worked. So I guess, sorry, this is the first time I fished on the South Fork. I had fished it a bunch on the Henry's Fork. Hadn't tried it on the South Fork because I'd never hit it right, and there's so many other bugs on the South Fork that you can fish streamers and whatever. I'm a streamer junkie, so I love throwing big bugs on the South Fork. But anyway, I just handed this to my buddy. He didn't have any nymphs with him. We had 2 buddies with us. Handed him one of these, and he just started catching fish. We weren't catching any fish. And like we could see the fish in the run, and they wouldn't touch anything but this. And so then my buddy's like, "Hey, I need more of those. I need more of those." And so then I just kept having to tie him some and send him up here to him. And so then I'm like, well, maybe I'll tie this pattern and do some videos with it. And people have loved it, and people have fished it all over the place and done well with it. So that's kind of the story behind this one, and like why I wanted to pursue this pattern and keep developing it to where it is now. Because at the time it wasn't like this. Like I started it with other chenille off the back, but it was just like super, super thin body on the back end, and then super thick thorax with that chewing gum. And it was just chenille at the start. I didn't have that bug body on it. And then one day I just tied a cased caddis with that. I was like, I wonder if I can make with the chenille, make it look like a cased caddis. Also, so when you tie these legs in and you have that loop with this bead, sometimes it's best, like I left too big of a loop on that. Sometimes it's best just to come in here with your scissors and just cut that. That'll lay flat on the shank of your hook. Anyway, with that bug yarn, I tied a cased caddis. So I used like a chartreuse or lime green, whatever it was, chenille, and tied a cased caddis with it. And when I looked at it, I was like, this looks like a stonefly body. And then I was like, dude, I'm tying this gonna try this on my rock crawler stone. And sure enough, it looked super good. So. All right. And from there, Also, so you can see that I went a little too far back with those legs. That's the other thing, is when you're doing the lead wire. Oh, that's coming undone. Maybe we can get rid of that. Maybe we don't want to. Maybe that will make my legs come off. This is Cheech's fix for everything. Have you guys ever seen him whip finish his parachute Adams? His secret? He doesn't whip finish parachute Adams ever. Like, that's like a big thing on the best way to whip finish, and he just literally just takes he did a full scale builder on it, and then he just takes a little bodkin and just puts super glue on it and then cuts his thread. Everyone thinks that's so funny at like tying expos, because he's like this expert tire, and then just uses the most simple way to finish off his parachute Adams. Anyway, so that little section can impede on your lead wire and not let it sit up under that, and can make the thorax look super goofy. So you just want to make sure that you don't tie your thread back there. So we'll wrap that, and then we'll build that thread dam. Another thing is this lead wire, this last point can be pretty dang sharp. And so I like to take my thumbnail and just push super, super hard. And lead is pliable enough that you can flatten that up against your hook shank so it won't cut your thread. Or less likely to cut your thread anyway. So same thing, we'll bend that over our thumb so that they splay away from each other. Oh, I didn't wrap my thread back. It kind of spun on me. I figure eight that one. That figure eight also just helps that not collapse when that chenille is tied over top of it. Okay, so this one is going to be that brown color rather than the black. And we're also going to use the same brown. Like I said before, it changes color with whatever the underbody is. So it's not going to be as dark as what that salmon fly, because I had that black underbody, and because we stretch it, it'll be more of a golden brown color. Make sure we leave a little bit of space back there. Tie that in off the back. Tie that like that. And then we're going to do that same thing where we trim this back. If you don't trim this back stuff off, it will be miserable trying to get that bug or that scud back to lay flat. Sorry, I'm all hands for the camera. So just do just like that. Super glue. So that first initial wrap too, it'll collapse like that, and then that super glue grabs it, and then you're able to splay it out up top. So it's not like it's going to be perfectly flat on that first wrap either. Oh, see that super glue saved me. Boom. So that one had a little bit longer fiber, as you can tell, just because it's pretty dang bulky. But it's that golden brown color rather than that dark black color that we were seeing with that salmon fly. All right, now we'll tie in the thorax piece. Do the legs splayed away from you or toward you, and then pinch it around. Ooh, that one twisted. Just like that, get the X. I never knew it. Whenever when people would say that and then they'd turn their flag like that and say get the X, I never knew what that meant. So I'd have to ask people. But the X is just this should create an X with your stoneflies. That's what people say. I don't know why they say it, but they say it. So I do it. Just makes it a lot easier to manipulate the legs, but right behind the bead. Do a few locking wraps in there. And then whip finish. Boom. And you can trim the legs if you want. I like longer legs, so. But that's the golden stone version. And then you can see like that, the brown legs on that look dang good too. But I feel like those amber legs kind of gave it a more of a golden stone look. But and then sometimes like I think that brown can be a little bit too bright or whatnot, so you can always just hit it with a marker too. And I just hit those rubber legs with a marker, so the chenille underneath will be brown, the rubber legs will be turned black, and then it looks just like that. What do you call it? The wing case on the stoneflies. So anyway, there's that golden variation of that guy. Oh, sorry. Did we get that other salmon fly? Oh, they're right there. Perfect. Okay. Where are we at, Madison? What time?
I mean, if you want to do one really quick,
The riffin rooster.
up to you. You can go for about an hour and 40 minutes.
It's up to you guys. Let's see. I have my big articulated streamer if you guys want to see that too. But that's one of my favorites. I shouldn't say it like that. It is my favorite. So we'll do that one real quick. We'll see how fast I can get it done. So this one I call the Rip and Rooster because it's pretty much all rooster. There is some rabbit, but it is schlopping. And this one, Fulling Meal, has picked up. It's over in the bins, but this is super cool one. People fish it up in BC for bull trout. They've Washington, Northern Idaho for bull trout. I developed this one when I was fishing Strawberry Reservoir. I mean, if you've ever fished Strawberry Reservoir, if you haven't fished Strawberry Reservoir, I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite places I've ever fished. Big cutthroat trout, ton of cutthroat trout, very active. Like the slot, the average catch there is like 16 to 22 inches. So they're big cutthroat trout. There's huge rainbows in there, but it's a blast. You can catch all of those on dry flies. So I love fishing dry flies. I don't just fish streamers there, but I do love throwing streamers there. So I started tying streamers. My first streamer I ever learned to tie along with the thin mint was the complex twist bugger of Cheech's. That's one of my favorite all-time patterns too. Super cool. Sorry, let me get going here. When I talk, I don't do anything. My wife tells me that too. But and then when I do things, I can't talk. The complex twist bugger I love, but there was times where I'd be fishing it on Strawberry and I would have big fish chase, like real big fish chase, and then they wouldn't commit ever. Like I would have a day where they just wouldn't commit. And it was super frustrating to me. And I would change colors and that would help. And it got to the point where I had taken off the flash. There was one day when I was fishing and the flash just it was scaring the fish away. So I went into the complex twist bugger and I cut off all the flash just because I didn't have any natural color streamer. And a lot of times on Strawberry, I learned this from Lance, is fish 2 small streamers just to kind of see what color they're keying off of. And then if you want to fish one later, that's kind of how I do it. You can fish 2 streamers all day long too, but I just do that to kind of figure out what color they're hitting. And so I'll do a black and a white or an olive and a black, and I'll just switch it up, purple, tan, whatever. And so there was one day when I couldn't figure out the color, but I noticed that they were always fishing the dull colored, or they were always hitting the dull colored streamer rather than the or the flashy streamer. So then when I went back home, I tied the complex twist, has 2 schloppen feathers with some chenille in it. And so I used that without the flash, which ended up being 3 schloppen feathers with marabou off the back. So it was just schloppen and marabou, and fish were crushing it. And so that's kind of how that started now to get to the point where I'd strip. So I'm going to use rabbit on this tail. Oh, sorry, this is the Bonio carp hook, size 10 from Fulling Mill. And then this is just a regular rabbit zonker strip in white. This is 210. I like 210 on this fly. So I'm going to just use this zonker strip over the top. I'll finish the story and then I'll tie. Sorry, I can't do 2 things at once with explaining to you guys. So anyway, it got to the point where I'd strip these schloppen buggers, is kind of what I would call them. I'd strip them all the way. The fish would follow. They wouldn't commit. And so I was talking to Lance about it one day. I can't remember, Lance had just gotten back from somewhere, or we'd been talking to someone, and they had told him to change the direction of his fly when that happens, instantly change the direction, not just like a little tug here and there. Throw your fly. If they follow you all the way to the bank and they won't commit, chuck your fly line over top of your shoulder so that fly line goes parallel, and just strip. And that's what it was. They follow him to the boat. But he's try it on the shore. I would just walk the shore at Strawberry. So I was all right, I'll try it. So I went back and I changed the direction of my fly and stripped. And that fly went completely sideways and crush it. And that ended up, still to this day, that's my personal best cutthroat. It was the first time I'd ever tried that technique after Lance told me to. It was a 26-inch cutthroat. And there's way bigger in that lake, but that's my personal best cutthroat on that lake, was doing that. And so from then on, I started putting shanks in it. Like I wanted that fly to kick side to side. And so similar to a game changer, like how it has shanks rather than like 8 shanks or whatever, those game changers have a ton of different shanks that Blaine Chocolate ties. This one just has 2 shanks on it, but it still kicks side to side with 1 strip. It'll kick directly to the side. So that's where this pattern came from. So I thank Lance for that, giving me all that insight, helping me. Cheech's complex twist bugger is kind of the inspiration and where this one started. Anyway, there's the story. There's the backstory. But this guy, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just come in here and cut a V. You can do this tail super long, however long you want. Instead of marabou off the back, I like this. I'll show you why. In just a second, you will see why. So I'm just going to tie off 1 little rabbit strip. I'm going to flip this upside down. I'm going to measure the end of this rabbit. And what you do is you measure right where that rabbit would sit, because I'm going to puncture this onto the hook shank. And so you want to measure right where you need to place that hole. So then you come sideways with this, right in the middle of that leather. Take it out. Put it right back in and lay that on the hook shank. So if you measured correctly, that shouldn't go over top of the eye, but also shouldn't be too far back from the eye. So it should sit just like that. Tie that, and instead of like ripping all that off, I just lay all those fibers back and wrap this back. And I rotate that back up top. I come in here and I measure where that lays down. And I cut, I'm cutting a V. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I'll show you in just a second. I'm cutting a V into it just so that rabbit strip tapers. And it looks like a fish fin. Even in the water, when that splays out, it looks like a back of a tail. And so from there, I take another rabbit strip. This is a cool technique that helps a ton. And this is the Skill Builder series. We started that one over the top. Look, the top camera down. And the main reason was one of my buddies, he's not here, but he's from Rexburg. Anyway, he would call me at Fly Fish Food and be like, hey, Cheech did this tutorial, and he explained what he was doing, but it was off camera. Like he's explaining it, and in his mind, he thinks that like people are understanding, but he's like, dude, I have no idea. And he was stripping marabou off the quill. Like he had no idea how, because like there's so many different techniques. Like you can pinch that all the way back and tie that in as a tail. You can strip it all the way off. You can palmer it. You just tow so many different ways, and he could not figure it out. And so I'm like, okay, well, I filmed it on my phone with Cheech, had him do it, and I sent it to him, and we were like, dude, we should do this, these types of shorts. And so that's why we started doing over the top view, is just so you could see exactly what he was doing with his hands. And this is one of the ones that people couldn't figure out. And there was one day when he was doing it, and I was like, dude, I need you to show me how you're holding that, how you're putting it in that material clamp, because I cannot figure it out. And he's using ring finger and middle finger rabbit strip, and you're putting it up here. And then you're holding the tip of the rabbit strip with your thumb. Sorry, I guess I need to show the camera too. Here, and holding the finger and index finger, or thumb and index finger. Coming in here, straightening these fibers out. Coming in here with your clamp, because you're able to hold that straight. Boom. Just like that. Take your scissors, and then you just go right along that leather. Just like that. And then we're going to do a dubbing loop. I bent this one when I was carrying it. Anyway, this is the Stonefly, is my favorite one. Just when you're palmering it, turns at a 90 degree. Anyway, you can use any dubbing twister for this. Stick that in there. Pinch it tight and just spin that up. And then I'm going to take a dubbing brush, Velcro, comb that out, and then it just turns at a 90 just like that. Other ones don't do that. But this one's super fragile. I've broken 2 of these, and they're not inexpensive tools, so. But I just palmer that around. And as I do it, you could just wrap this up, but again, it's going to trap those fibers, and I want as much movement on this tail as possible. It's a very easy way to do that. And then you just preen those fibers back. As I wrap. And I found that the CDC clamp from Hairline, I believe it's Hairline. Oh, that one's a Swiss CDC, but I don't know what they call it anymore. It's not called the Swiss CDC clamp. But that one's like perfect for that little Bonio hook shank. This is a size 10. You can do this in an 8 off the back end as well, but I like the 10s. So, and if you do a lot less rabbit off the back too, that's a little minnow pattern that I like to tie as well. And I'll put eyes on this and just kind of create a little resin head. It's like a little micro minnow, a little rabbit minnow. So anyway, that's a cool, fun little pattern that you can tie. But that's the tail of this guy. I have so many tools right here. Okay, so that's the back end. Oh, we're going to leave that in there. And then this is going to be the hook shanks or the articulation shanks. These are the next gen shanks from Fish Skull. 15 millimeter and 20 millimeters are what we're going to use. The 20 millimeter. Or sorry, the 15 is the next one. These next gen, I don't know if you guys have tied with them. They're super cool. They have the triangle off the back. And that's kind of what it hinges on. So you want that triangle to be the one going toward the back of the fly. And so you're just going to bend that, stick that down. And then it also locks into a vise way easier than the older ones did. Boom, just like that. And from here, we're just going to wrap up. Oh my goodness, I prepped all my schlappen. And the one color I decided to tie in when I was talking to you guys was white. And all the schlappen that I prepped was brown, olive, and black. And I didn't prep any of the white. So you guys are going to get to watch me prep all this schlappen. But I didn't leave any of the other colored feathers out. So you wouldn't have seen this. But what I like to do is I'll just take these feathers. This fly has 18 schlappen feathers. That's why I call it the Rip and Rooster. It's a ton of feathers, but it moves really well. So what I do is I don't like these wispy feathers. So I just take my finger, and this thing's a mess. We're going to get the garbage can here. But I just take my finger and I preen all these off. Just like that. So I just take it. Just make sure that they don't have any of those wisps. And so I do 3 on the back shank or the back shank. 6 on the middle shank, and then 9 up front. So then from here, generally, that's generally, just depends on what your slopping feathers look like. I like hairline slopping. I'd use all of it, right? But hairline generally has the longest slopping feathers, the longest and best looking. Fish Hunter from Nature's Spirit slopping is a little bit shorter. That generally looks better if you're just looking at it, but hairline has really long slopping feathers, and that's what I like on these. And the fibers are long too. So I'm just going to tie this in by the tips. Same thing, the concave portion. Sorry, I didn't even show that. I line them up together, just like that. Lay them on top of each other. All fibers go in the same direction. Okay, and then what I'll do is on these tips, I'm going to try and show this on the camera. Can you guys see it? Oh yeah, we're good. The tips, I like all these fibers to be aligned just off the back. It's way easier to manage, way easier to see where you're holding. So just like that. Anyway, so then I take my finger and I run my finger and splay these fibers out. It's way easier to palmer that slopping up. So I make it look super crazy, but it lays way flatter, way nicer. Anyway, so I'll tie this in by the tips. We'll come in here, chop that off. These next gen shanks also, they come in, the openings of these shanks lay all the way. The old shanks like went halfway, if you remember those. And so you'd have these giant sections of the shank that wouldn't lay flat. So you'd be wrapping stuff and they'd slide off, or you'd have to match it with thread wraps to build it up. With these next gen shanks, they're perfectly level all the way down. So they're super nice. Anyway, so this slopping, I just hold it together. You can use hackle pliers. The only problem with the hackle pliers is these feathers, just like they did in my hands as I'm saying it, but they will lose one of those pretty often, one of those stems, because it will pinch the two biggest stems together, and then whatever is the smallest stem kind of just slips. So I like doing it with my fingers. I just preen those back. We'll do it quick because it's going to be 18 of these, but and as I tie these in, I just preen these back. You can palmer it, but it's just going to trap them down, like I said. Rather than having to go through with Velcro after, I still go through with a comb, but rather than having to pull these fibers off, if you just splay these back, it looks way better. And so then right there, I'm just going to tie it off right behind that eye. I'm going to come in front of the eye and make sure all of this is back away from that, just because that will impede its movement with that hook shank or with the other articulation shank trying to wrap around. Just like that, we'll finish that guy. Throw in that 20 millimeter shank. So this I tie in 6 different colors. And those 6 colors are like the best that I've used. So I tie black. I guess Fulling Mill picked up 6 different colors. I tie them in a few other colors too, but they only do them in uniform colors with Fulling Mill. So they do black, tan, white, brown, purple, and what's the other color? Maybe it's only 5. Olive. Anyway, so when I tie these, I will also tie it in multiple colors. So just like that thin mint, I like doing olive, black, and brown all together. So I'll do 3 colors, olive, black, and brown together on that hook shank. I'll do same thing. I'll just repeat that pattern. So do 6 of them and then 9 of them up front. And it looks super cool. Those 3 colors together look super cool. So I'll tie in a ton of different variations. But those 6 colors are the best ones that I've used. And like I said, we've had people fish this. Like the Fulling Mill guys went and fished it in British Columbia for bull trout and crush. And they were using the white one, this guy. So now, get to prep all these. Can't believe I forgot to do the white. So we actually went to New Jersey. So Cheech and I, we went to the New Jersey show. And after the Jersey show, we went and fished with Chuck Brimsky. He runs the fly fishing show. So we went and fished with him off the Jersey coast, and we went for a striper. And we were catching a ton of big fish. And the guide is just like this New Jersey guy, this thick New Jersey accent. He wasn't crass at all, but he was just like, just New Jersey East Coaster. And was like yelling at us about everything that like to do until we started like getting into fish. Then he kind of relaxed about it. But I tied on, I was like, you know what? I just want to see if this ripping release will work. This exact one, little size 10, and then a size 1 streamer stripper off the front. And I bombed it out there. I told Cheech, I was like, I'm going to try this. And he's like, do it, dude, do it. And so I bombed it out there. And I hooked into the biggest striper of the day. It was huge. And I just like looked at Cheech, just like, oh no, dude. And then he's like, well, just try. He's like, I think it'll hold. Let's just try. And so I'm like, there's no way this thing's holding. So I fought it for probably 5 minutes. And Jim had no idea, the guide had no idea that I had switched the flies. And so he's like, oh, it's huge. And he was right next to me the whole time. And I'm like, just go away, dude. Because sure enough, this hook bends out and I get this rip and rooster in, and that hook shank, it's like almost completely straight. And he just like looks at because the flies we were fishing also were like that big in New Jersey, just huge bunker imitations is what they call that, the bait fish up there. And he's like, what in the world are you fishing? He's like, what kind of fly is that? I was like, oh, I just wanted to see if it'd work. I just feel like it's such an idiot throwing this tiny fly hooking into a fish and it just popping right off. But it does work on striper. So there you go. You just need to tie it with some massive saltwater hooks. But yeah, that was just a couple months ago. That was a little embarrassing. So for this part, because it's 6 feathers, I'm not going to tie all 6 in at the same time. Otherwise, you'll have like a huge part and then a tiny part at the front because it tapers. So to keep that from happening, I just tie 3 in at a time. And it's way easier to manage that way too. I've tried 4, and 3's the max. You can do 4, but it's just unruly. So we'll just tie 3 in. And I splayed those out before I lined them up.
You said in the beginning you wanted to fly with like less synthetic material because you thought it mattered for
Yeah,
the waters that you fished.
Yeah, just the waters I fished. It was just at the flashiness of it, like because I've tied these with flash in them and they've worked, right? But Schlappen moves better than any natural material I've ever used. Like I mean, other than obviously Marabou. Marabou has a ton of movement, but Schlappen. The first time I fished the Schlappen bugger, so the one that the complex twist with just Schlappen on it, with Marabou off the back, I just tossed it my wife I'd hiked in to the Narrows at Strawberry, and we were just sitting on a rock. She was sitting on a rock. I was stripping out my fly line. First time I tied this fly, I was like telling her all about it as we were hiking. She probably didn't care at all. But I flipped this fly into the water. She was sitting on the bank, and I'm just stripping fly line off, talking to her, and she starts yelling that, like a guy yelling, strip, set. Like she was screaming at me that a fish had come up. The fly was just sitting in the water. Like I hadn't done anything with it. It was just sitting and pulsating because of the schloppen. A fish had come up and just snatched it. Because the Narrows are super deep. They get like 200 feet deep in that Strawberry. So it's like a sheer cliff. So the fish literally came up from the depth and hit that fly. So like schloppen just moves a ton just sitting there, even in still water, even in a lake. So that's why I like schloppen specifically for this, because it just pulsates a ton. Another tip too that I like to tell people, it makes me sound crazy, I feel like, but after I get these flies done, like this one, I'd give it like a bath with soap, because the oil and schloppen feathers, and same with marabou too. Have you ever thrown a fly out there and it won't take on water? It like takes forever. It's like sitting on top, almost floating, even though it's a weighted fly. Just the oils, because these feathers on the birds are meant to wick water to protect the birds from rain. If you wash them in Dawn dish soap, it strips all the oils off of it. So when you cast this fly into the water, whatever fly you're using, whether it's this one or another one, it instantly starts moving in the water, rather than you having to like make one initial hard strip set to get it under the water. But then even when it's under the water at the beginning of the day, the oils aren't stripped off that fly at all. So it just kind of, it pushes water. It doesn't move as much. So I'll even give it a little bath with Dawn dish soap. But that helps a ton with the movement. And then when you're wrapping these, I don't know if you can see that when I tied that in, I kind of moved them back. It's just like dry fly hackle, right? You never want to start. You always want a space, a stem in between your first wrap. Otherwise, I mean, streamers don't matter, but it's still nice with this too, is that those fibers now can wrap around the shank and splay properly. Otherwise, they would get caught. So with like dry fly patterns, that hackle can get caught. If you tie it right up against a hook shank, then you have like fibers going directly back, looking like a tail feather off the back of like a elk or caddis. So if you could see that wrapped around, super nice, and it's not going anywhere crazy. All right, then when I get to this point, like when I have longer feathers than the hook shank allows, I just make sure that there's a gap in between where I'm tying down. Just like that, and then tie it in. And then preen everything back, and then get those hook wraps to push those fibers back. I don't think I've ever lost my whip finisher more than I have today. Oh, there it is. I'll do a hand. Boom. Okay, so that's the back end of that fly. Moves a ton just like that, but then because of the schlopp and the rabbit, it just pulsates in the water a ton. And like Cheech always says with his articulated streamers, that you could easily fish that as a fly. Like you could even like put some red on top. And the reason also, I rarely, with the white flies, I rarely tie them with another color. If you've ever tied white, or even just like put white in a box with other colors, it bleeds into the white all the time. Like if you have a box of white marabou flies, generally you just want to keep those flies with only white flies or full synthetic flies. So that with this white streamer, I'm only tying white schlop and I never mix it with other colored schlopping because it just destroys it. All right, now we're going to do the front section. This is a streamer stripper, so you can imagine this hook hooking into like a monster striper and just getting bent completely out. If you're a fish streamer strippers too, they don't bend easy, so. Oh, and then a cone head. I just do large cone heads, whatever color you want. The rainbow, I like putting rainbow on all of them. I think rainbow's it just looks like minnow gills. So that's, I guess, the flash. There's the flash for you on this one, just like a rainbow cone. Now with this lead, I'm going to do $12 wraps of that, about 12 to 15. And then I'm going to double this over. I did not give myself enough room. We're going to double this back over itself because of that cone head. That will push right back over that lead wire. So I double it up like that, not too much because I want it to stay under the cone doubled up. But I want to push that right up against the eye. And with the remaining, I'm just going to wrap it back on the hook shank. Just like that. And then just like every other fly with the lead wire, build that thread dam. Especially with this one, you want this covered because those schloppen stems will slip right in between there and splay your fibers super, super weird. But 210's nice for this type of stuff because it's so wide. So I like to zigzag to cross over those, and then you can wrap normal because those zigzags, those X's catch your thread from going in between those. Just like that. And then from right here, we're going to tie in our articulation wire. You can tie in whatever articulation wire. I just have red articulation wire. And then we're going to go, I use just flush cutters with this stuff. And I've had fish, big fish, when you're stripping these things, especially in rivers, when it's aggression strike and it's fast current, they'll rip these things straight out. So what I do is I tie this in going straight forward off the front of my hook. And if you're intense, like Alaskan guys, I believe they go like right through the eye of the hook, up through the cone head, through the eye, back through. But I'm just going to do this. Wrap down, and then we're going to fold it right back. And I do this on the side right here. Otherwise, you're going to be pushing up against itself when you're tying in the back portion. And you want this to come off right off the back of this and sit vertical. Just like those hook shanks act with that triangle piece it's connected to. This is mimicking that essentially. So we're going to fold it there. We're going to take this. You want to make sure that hook shank is down when you tie this in. I don't use an articulation bead. Articulation beads cause streamers to foul. It just happens. Like, people love them because they add dimension and color, but My streamers foul if I use articulation hooks. If I don't use articulation hooks, they don't foul. So this one rides perfect. I wrap this down, and I want this coming off right off the back of the shank, so I go down just a little bit and have it go perfectly level with it. Then I want it to be level or vertical, just like that. So once I get the correct positioning, I wrap this down, and that's going to go right along the top. And then this loop is I'm going to loop it down just like that. And what that does, the reason why I'm so particular with this is because now it's a level. It's right behind the lead wire. It's level with the hook shank. And so all that schlopping is going to wrap up that hook shank perfect without having bumps that it has to go over. So I like to spin my thread here to flatten it out to just do these last few wraps to give the schlopping a smooth section to wrap over. Just like that. And then from here, I'm going to just glue that in just to make sure that that doesn't rip out on big fish. And you want to make sure it's dry. Like I just run my finger over it. I know that annoys people with super glue on their fingers, but I just do that just so that the schlopping fibers, any fiber obviously that's going to touch that, if it's wet, is just going to stick to it. All right.
How many flies can you get out of one type of schlopping?
Depends on how many feathers are in there, I guess, because they go by weight, I think, with the. Oh no, they go by length on the string. They just measure, I think, the length and they cut it, I think. So it just varies, it really does. But also you have, depending on the length of the feather, like tan, for whatever reason, tan schloppen are the tiniest feathers ever. I don't know if they just like, you know, they're like, well, these feathers are short, we're dyeing them tan. Like, but tan, it's like 1 or 2 flies, I swear, because they're so tiny. So like sometimes it takes way more than 18 feathers. But then like hairline, if the feathers are super long, like sometimes you're cutting them on that first shank, you're cutting them in half before you even get, or when it, like you've run out of hook shank, you're cutting that feather in half. And then the next one, you're only using 3 feathers on. So I guess, yeah, it really just depends on the length of the feathers.
What would you say on average?
I don't know. I'm probably, I'd say like one good package of slopping, probably like 4 flies, 3 or 4 flies. But that's the thing. This is the fly you're using like 0x, like 20-pound test. You're not letting this thing come off. If you get snagged, you make AJ row across the river to go get it, which I've had him do. But anyway, yeah, it definitely does take a lot, but it works that well that I'm like, yeah, I'm willing to tie these things. But when you prep feathers, it's way easier, which I don't know if you heard me telling all these guys, I prepped olive, brown, and black feathers. And then I was talking to all of them and wasn't thinking, and I just started tying white.
Oh no.
And that's the only package that I did not prep. So we're here. So I apologize, everybody, that you guys have to sit through this. But yeah, when I get my schloppen, like I don't tie any flies that use this stuff. I mean, there might be some people that do, but so when I get my schloppen, like I'll just open the entire pack, chop off the bottom part, and then I'll just preen all my fibers. I'll show you. Where's the... See, like every color's prepped except the white, but they're all like perfect feathers for tying flies. So anyway,
I saw that there was like what 12-inch schloppen feathers or like 17-inch schloppen feathers that they got from Whiting in the shop down there. Have you
yeah.
seen
Oh,
those?
that's the other thing. Grizzly looks super cool on these. Yeah, they were. It was the American Rooster saddle, and it had schloppen feathers. Yeah, they were 18 inches long.
They have a different one that's just like 17-inch schloppen. It's like
Oh yeah, the Whiting schloppen that came in. Yeah. But I think they pull it from those saddles though. No, because they're solid colors, huh? They're not the Grizzly. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, Dr. Whiting's a wizard. We have a Grizzly dry fly saddle in our shop. It's if you've ever been to the Orem shop, behind the counter there's a Grizzly saddle that's just hanging there, and it has 22-inch dry fly saddle hackles, like perfect, like every one of them, and it's a platinum grade, so the highest grade, and it's just sitting there, never been used. And then Cheech and I, like I said, we would go there. We used to go pick out the hackle. We were there one time, and I just like looked down on the ground. Phil is one of the guys that grades all the hackle. And so every hackle that you've ever tied with from Whiting has passed over Phil's desk. So we were just in Phil's office one time, and I was looking at the ground, and there was this incredibly long Grizzly saddle hackle. And so I just bent down and picked it up, and I think it measured like 32 inches. And so I have, my brother's here. He's nodding yes, but it's sitting. I taped it up next to. I was like, Phil, I'm taking this, and we taped it up right next to that. So there's another saddle hackle that's what, 8 inches longer than that. Crazy. But yeah, it's hard to compete with Whiting. We're almost there. 3 more, except this is Nature's Spirit. So you saw how long those were? I just used that. All the long fibers. So these are the short fibers from Nature's Spirit. So that's the difference. Or not fibers, but feathers. But I think there's a few long ones here on the end that will work. But anyway, yeah, this is when you prep them, it seems like it's absurdly long to tie, but when you have things prepped and ready to go, it's not that bad. I can't believe those. I'm getting into the webby. All right, so I'm going to stop right there, right behind the cone. I'm going to come here at the bodkin because that got all matted down right there. There we go. So I'm going to tie down right here. Where is it? And then from here, we're going to do that same thing that we did on the tail. This looks like snow on my desk. Zonker straight, right in front of my face. Okay, same thing. So we're going to grab index finger, thumb, ring finger, middle finger. Take your clamp and just thread it all the way up, just like that. Then you're going to go right along that leather. Just like that. And then we're going to do a dubbing loop. So if you've never done a dubbing loop, like a lot of people wrap, or I'll just explain real quick, but when you do a dubbing loop, you wrap around your finger just like that, go back around the hook shank, and then there's like this gap. What you want to do is you want to go around that dubbing loop and close that off. Like that. See how it's pinched? Otherwise, your material, when you try and close your dubbing loop from pulling this end, that end is completely open and all your material will fall out. So that's one tip that you need. See how it closes flat now? So we'll put this in there. And if you've never done it, I recommend doing it because it is way thinner and you can fit way more material on your fly than you can with just using a rabbit strip. Sorry, I'm referring to rabbit strip specifically because that leather piece, like if you wrap the leather around a fly, like a lot of like bunny leeches and stuff do, they you create some flies you want bulk, but you create a lot of unnecessary bulk with that piece of leather. So this takes away that leather but leaves all that fur on that fly. So then we're just going to palmer this around, preen those fibers back as we wrap. And this creates a big head that pushes water. I've tied these with also big dubbing brushes. Shout out to Tyler Hanks at the Orem shop who begged me to tie one with a dubbing brush, and I did, and it looked sweet. So big dubbing brushes on the front look really cool, work really well. Push water. Those big streamer heads, you want them to push water to get that reaction strike from fish. And then I like to take this comb, just back comb the whole fly.
Someone's asking what colors, if you tied two-tone ones, what colors would you go together?
Two tones, I use brown and olive, look really cool. Black and purple together looks really good. The only problem with black and purple is the black will bleed into the purple. But it honestly looks cool, like the way that the black bleeds into the purple. Like if you've seen colors bleed into white, it looks disgusting. But yeah, black and purple. Tan and olive looks really good too. Gray and black together looks cool. Looks like a sucker fish or like a chub. Black and all. I've fished a lot of those at Strawberry. But my favorite's three colors together. I like black, olive, and brown together. I should have brought one, but they look so cool. That's what I was planning on tying. Gosh dang it! But anyway, yeah, that three colors looks really good when you match the correct color. So brown, olive, and black, but duos black and brown, black and purple, or brown and olive, black and purple.
It'd be cool if you tied them on tubes so that you could stack each tube section together and you just have
Like a rip, yeah,
all the colors like
a rip and rooster just mixed with junction tubing. That'd be sweet. That's a good idea. Anyway, so that's the rip and rooster. Thank you guys for coming and watching this. Watch me just freaking play with the entire schlop and saddle. But we can pass that one around too. Anyway, thank you.
Good. Thanks. There you go.
Yeah.